I'm gonna come out and say it. Ruin is my favorite FNAF game that has ever released. That's it, review over. Goodbye. No, but seriously, this game was amazing. It was dark, mysterious, and downright scary at certain times. And it really does feel like Steelwood Studios has gone back and looked at the key elements from previous games to make this one. For example, choosing the entire game to be set in a dark, dilapidated setting that's falling apart. You see all the crust on the walls and all the broken pizza boxes and stuff. Really reminded us of the FNAF 1 pizzeria, which automatically brings back a sense of eeriness and fear to the franchise, which I think some fans were missing in previous releases, such as Security Breach in the neon lit world that was. Another thing I realized is that the story on tracks approach, much like in Sister Location, really helped keep the plot feel a lot more cohesive than in the base game, which was an open world, and albeit it was a very interesting experience for a FNAF fan, but it did cause some of the players, and myself included in that, to not know where to go next sometimes. Also, the amount of game-breaking mechanics was significantly cut down by having a more streamlined story on tracks approach. Speaking of game-breaking bugs and mechanics, there were virtually none. The game played as smooth as exotic butter. And it's not just my playthrough that played well. From what I've seen on different people's like the walkthroughs and playthroughs and them speaking about the game on Twitter and stuff like that, everyone has basically had a decent experience. There's been no major frame drops, there's no lagging, there's no teleporting across the map randomly-ish. And I say ish because I did have one slight tiny little bug where basically, if you didn't know, the maps render the normal world up top and the glitched world at the bottom, and basically every time you put on the mask you teleport from the top to the bottom. And can I just say real quick how cool and original the idea of having the Vanny mask was? That was great, and just damn right smart of switching between the top world and the bottom world instead of rendering all those glitched assets in every time you put the mask on. The fact it's done so seamlessly as well is just impressive. Anyway, so this is what happened. You can see right here, basically sometimes the game fails to teleport you when you put the mask on. Now, because of this, when you take the mask off, the game wants to teleport you back up. But since you haven't actually gone down to the glitch world, you just kind of get sent up into the air and then just fall back onto the normal world. And yeah, that's the only glitch that I have experienced in the entire game, which when compared to Security Breach, it's an improvement. So yeah, if you want to know more how the Vanny mask works, Astral Spiff made an amazing video on all like the little tidbits as soon as the game came out. I'll leave that video in the description below, and right next to it, if you look like right a little and then, oh, that's the subscribe button. You should definitely hit that. I'm trying to hit 100. Please subscribe. Anyway, shameless plug aside, I suppose I should really speak about the elephant in the room, or should I say bird, or whatever the hell this thing is. The Mimic, who I think is an extremely interesting antagonist altogether. Personally, I am really liking the whole AI direction FNAF has gone since Help Wanted with the introduction of Glitch Trap. And I think it's a really cool premise how the Mimic isn't really so much of a crazy evil psychopath as much as a program just trying to analyze data and finding the easiest, shortest way to achieve its goal, which is a really horrifying premise when you are the thing that's in its way, and this thing is going to act with zero humility and without a shred of humanity, and is going to just kill you because your intentions do not align with its own. Speaking of characters, let's talk about Cassie. Pretty much straight away, I preferred her to Gregory. I was never much of a Gregory fan, I found him very annoying. But with Cassie, I felt like she was a good representation of someone actually going into a pizzaplex with killer robots. I mean, I don't think Gregory screamed a single time through the entirety of Security Breach, which kind of made him seem a bit, you know, robotic. Jokes aside, I think Steel will really hit the mark with Cassie's personality. Anyway, moving on to Monty and Chica, they were pretty much the same, but more broken, which I thought was fine considering they were quite minor characters in Security Breach, the base game. A cool character that was introduced, MXES, who was actually the good guy the entire time, stopping us from deactivating all the security nodes that would let the Mimic free. I love the way he watched you from afar and started creeping towards you slowly, nearer and nearer, and calling all the animatronics near to you. As for Sun and Moon in this game, I was never too much of a fan of them, but Eclipse was way better. I liked Eclipse. I liked his voice. Kellengoff always does such an amazing job with voice acting, whether it's JoJo's or FNAF. And last, but definitely not least, Roxy. Now, I was not expecting her to have such a big role in this DLC, and seeing her interact with Cassie, it was so wholesome. It was so wholesome. I thought it was also really cute how Cassie wanted to look like Roxy, so she painted her nails the same color and having the eyeshadow the same as well. God, did it make it hurt more though when you had to deactivate Roxy. That scene broke me. That scene was so sad, but so well done. But then Roxy coming in at the end against the Mimic, like coming back from the dead, that was pretty cool. I really like Roxy. Favorite animatronic? Maybe. Now I think it is very important that we really treat this as a review. So far I've just been gushing about what's been good about this game. Here are the criticisms of Security Breach. Number one, chapter 7 Music Man level. I wasn't too much of a fan of this. I don't know, maybe I was just really bad at getting the little Music Man to get away, but some of them weren't responding to the intercom system. That was a bit annoying. Anyway, second criticism. There were moments in this game where I expected something to happen, like a chase sequence, and nothing did happen. Yeah, I was expecting this game to be a bit harder. And I also think there's a thing to be said for having a slightly easier FNAF game, because it gives you more time to just look around the world, set pieces and everything, and just immerse yourself in the story. But like, if they just turned up the difficulty a tiny bit, I think it would have been a little bit better. Now, third criticism, I don't know if this is really criticism. It's more just like a thing that was unavoidable. Knowing what the Mimic was before we went into the game, I think kind of hindered the experience a tiny bit. Because as soon as we heard Gregory in the trailer in May, we all knew that this guy was sus. And I think everyone going in, at least me, I was like 75% confidence that Gregory was being mimicked by the Mimic. It did kind of ruin the surprise a little bit, but it would have been even more confusing, I guess, if we just had no information on what the Mimic was, and then go down to the basement and see this random lanky animatronic with a scuffed face, maybe in a costume sometimes, and chase us with Gregory's voice. Yeah, I think people would complain about that. So maybe it is a good thing that we did have prior knowledge about the Mimic from the books. But yeah, that's about it. That's the only criticisms I have, and I don't think half of them are criticisms. But yeah, thank you, Steel Wool, for making such a good game and making it free. And I really enjoyed this game. I think it is the best FNAF game in the entire franchise. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Am I forgetting anything? Oh yeah, Bonnie made an appearance. That was really good.